How's it going? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Wherever you're watching this from. It's time for Coffee with Clint. I am getting ready to have the students at Spectrum show back up on Monday. I think the 29th is the date. So I'm super excited from a business job standpoint, just to be able to be back with the students from Spectrum and be able to love on them and welcome them back to the new school year. And yeah, I mentioned on one of my stories recently just 3 different goals. One goal being physical, one goal being emotional or mental health, and one goal being spiritual. So I would say everyone should have those 3 goals in mind. I think we're whole people with multiple different layers and facets of what makes up the fabric of our being. So I would encourage everybody to think through different goals in those areas and be able to put those goals into place. But so I went to a counseling session recently, and then after, I think it was after the counseling session, I had a little bit of time, and there was a record store nearby, and so I'm like, I'm going to go look up records. And on my road trip in July that I told you guys about briefly, one of the things I did when I was on the road, I was traveling, I was looking to listen to different music, and I turned on an 80s pop rock station or something like that. And I'm always looking to grow my vinyl record collection, but I didn't know what records to look for, and I hadn't really dove into that genre. So I'm just listening to this 80s station, just favoriting or saving tracks, not knowing who the artist is, because that's one thing I'm really bad about, especially like old classics or era stuff, is I don't know who the artist is, I don't know what album it is, I don't know what the song is. I just hear it, I'm like, oh, I like that song. So I was doing that, saving stuff, and I saved one song, and now I don't even know the name of that song. I want to say it's Rock This Town, but it was by a band called Stray Cats. And so I'm at the record store, and I'm digging through, and I'm like looking, because then I'm looking for an album with the song on it. So I like the song. Do I like them as a whole? Find the album with the song on it, then at least I know I have one song on the album that I like. So then I found it. I don't know if it's glaring because it's of the lighting. Stray Cats, and I listened to this. I listened to this all the way through. So yeah, Rock This Town is the song, but the whole album is gold. It's gold. It's a masterpiece. And it's one of the first times in a long time that I sat and listened to a whole complete album, front and back, on a record. There's A side and B side. I listened to both sides in one sitting, wasn't really doing anything else. I was listening to music, and I was talking to my sister, Jessica, about this phenomenon where we talk about, like, oh, the things that we do. Like, we go running, or I like to play music or listen to music, but we don't sit and that's not something we just do. Like, we have music on, we enjoy music, we may go to concerts and whatever, but generally we don't just sit. I don't sit here and say, I'm going to sit and listen to music. And that's what I did that day, that evening. I was listening to it, and all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, oh, where have they been all my life? So I love this album right now. It's one of my main albums on rotation. Another album that I will listen straight through because I think it works as a whole is Andy Mineo's Neverland 2. I think that album as a whole tells a really phenomenal story. It's got a great arc to it. But like I said, I was talking to my sister Jessica about all of this and about music in general and listening to music, and just the fact that if I sat down and started listening to music right now and listened to music from now until whenever I were to pass away, I would never consume all of the wonderful musical expressions that are out there in the world, throughout the history of the world. There's no way I literally cannot do that. And then that got me to thinking movies, the same thing with movies, consuming art, consuming books, anything that we consume or we experience. There's so much more to be experienced that we'll never experience. We'll never have time to experience it all. You can't travel. Everyone's goal is to get to every continent or get to every state or get to, and mine too. There are places that I want to go. This is on my bucket list to do these places or whatever. But we'll never experience all of it, which I find fascinating. But in that regard, there's one thing that I was going to say is that I do think one thing that I'm learning in that is the beauty of contentment and gratitude for the moment and for what we get to experience. It's good to have goals, a lot of goals, and a lot of habits and focus is a good thing, right? Objectives, vision, those are things that I'm going to talk about here on the Coffee with Clint segments at different points, but also the being able to be in the present moment and recognize our limits as human beings, and being able to be in that place and enjoy what we have and enjoy what we're experiencing, because we're not meant to experience everything there is. So really being able to soak in the moment, soak in the music, soak in the movie, soak in the time with friends, coffee with friends, and family, time with family. We're finite beings. We don't know how long we have on this earth. Again, over the last couple of years, I've been dealing a lot with grief and hope and that, and we'll talk more about that throughout these sessions and segments too. But there's such a beauty in the contentment and the gratitude of the moment and gratitude of what we've been given and being able to be present in that, which I'm not great at, but I'm learning, and it makes you, I think, a more well-rounded, whole, healthy person when you can get to that place, and not live in the past and not live in the future and not live in the what ifs, but really being able to be present in the moment and finding the beauty of that. Now with that in place, one of the things that I wanted to mention, because I think I've mentioned on here before, I don't think I've ever shown you guys, is when I'm getting back into the school, I'm trying to be intentional with my time. I'm trying to be I'm my personality type and the way that I function, I do much better when I'm a little bit more grounded and a little bit more purposeful in creating habits. I can get kind of off in daydream land or in imaginative world or fantasy land, or whatever those cases may be, instead of being very present. So again, these are things that I'm learning and I'm just sharing them with you guys. So I have this habit tracker. It's a daily habit tracker. It's got weekly and monthly, and I'll show you. So I just have some different months that I've done, and I do coloring and I'm not going to show you the ones that I'm doing because some of that's kind of personal. I don't know. But then on this, you have all of your daily tasks. You can right here, and then you can kind of fill in as the month goes along. Do different colors, make it colorful. I do think that there's a lot of studies that show when we have vibrant color and we're being expressive, that there's a lot more something else is firing in our brains and in our minds that keep us more alert, and we're learning, and so there's a payoff in that as well. So you have your daily, you have your goals for the week, or habits for the week that you're going to do, and then you have your monthly habits or goals there. And so I do that from month to month. I got this, it was super cheap on Amazon for, I don't know, it was less than $20, but I want to say it was like 10 or 15. But the habit tracker, and you can really, I mean, you find one that you like and you can make copies of this. I just like it because it's a hard copy, and that's the one thing that I would say, again, for me and just for our day and age, so much of our life is lived through technology, through the internet, through media, through all these digital sources. Like even if you're working in your spiritual life and you're working through scripture, there's the Bible app, and so I'm learning to, yes, that's a great resource, but then also stepping away and like having a hard copy of scripture, of reading, of vinyl, even like something in physical presence, and getting away from the digital quite so much. And so that's the reason why I have that habit tracker as a hard copy, that I'm writing something out, that I'm, when I'm doing stuff on my journal, I'm like journaling things, as opposed to doing it all digital, because I'm already so connected to my phone that I want to be very careful about like the addiction, or like the craving, the connection, the being tied and chained to this device. So the habit tracker, I do it on a hard copy, and I would encourage anybody else to do the same thing, because I do think it benefits us to get away from the noise of technology sometimes, and part of that is just because I live in it, right? That's my job. So sometimes I have to step away and have to make intentional pockets of grace and pockets of peace in that way, away from that. So the habit tracker is one thing that I'm doing, starting back at the school. So I'm getting into the habit of more morning routines. One of the things that I have discovered, and I knew it before, but there's more evidence of it, I think, for me than ever before, is like some of the people that I look at and I admire their lives or admire their successes, they have morning routines. If you haven't read Miracle Morning, it's a great resource. It really helped me kind of tune in some of that. I don't agree with everything in his book, but some of the concepts play out both in his story and then in spiritual leaders that I trust, or I look up to, fathers and husbands that I like respect, and I say I like the way that they live their lives. I like the success that they have in their personal life and in the way that they do life. So I'm beginning to incorporate morning routines. I'm not a morning person, you guys. I am not a morning person. I drink coffee when I get to work every morning. It's one of the first things I do, and get my coffee. And my job at the school has gotten to where it starts earlier and earlier. I think when I first started at the school, and I've told this to a few different friends, but when I started at the school, I started at like 8:30, I think. That was when I was part-time, but like 8:30, and then it was like 8:15, then it was 8 o'clock, and it was jumped, and now somehow I'm starting at 7 o'clock, and I'm like, I can't, how did this happen? How did I become a person that has to be at work at 7 o'clock? That means I have to be up super early, and even earlier if I wanted to do a morning routine or having any kind of flow. But I think it's important to do so, because even me as a person that's not a morning person, as a person that's generally considers himself a creative, I like the late night, I like the just being able to process at different points whenever the creative juices hit. But the one thing that I have noticed is that when I leave that margin, when I leave that space in the morning, when I start my day with something physical, with some time of focusing on being grateful for what God's given me, and then also being active, and then diving into scripture or to journaling or to something. There's these different habits and setting goals in front of ourselves. And when we do that in the morning, we create this margin. We're not rushed. If we get up and we're already behind, then we're trying to play catch up the whole day, as opposed to getting up just early enough to say, nope, this is my goal. This is what I'm going to be focused on. This is what I'm going to be looking to. I am going to, when I step into work, I'm going to be looking for this opportunity to be a blessing in this way, because I've been praying about it that morning. So I'm learning how to do that. I'm learning a lot of things, and I want you guys to learn with me. Again, because this is this coffee with Clint. This is this area where I am saying this is what's working for me, and just talking about life and what's going on in my life and how I'm going about life, because that's what I would do with my friends if I was sitting for coffee at a coffee shop. So the morning routine is a big one, especially going into the school year, and especially because it has to be consistent. Consistency matters. Consistency matters in business. Consistency matters in relationships with family, with significant others. Consistency matters with finance. Consistency matters with developing and enriching your relationship with the Creator, with God, and all of these little things that we don't think matter really do matter in the grand scheme of things. And then being able to say this matters, this doesn't, because then there is so much media to consume, right? I could consume media. I have my lists on my streaming services for, I have 3 streaming platforms that I have set up, and 4. I may have 4, but the thing is I have these lists on all of these platforms of stuff to watch, and there's all this other stuff that I haven't even added to the list. But I do think it's where I could dive more into that and be watching other people experience life, or at least portray life, instead of actually investing in myself. Now, sometimes it's all about the zone out, because I'm so exhausted. I just need something to tune out and relax. But that, I don't think that should always be the case. I think that there are times that can be beneficial, because it's a resting, but then also being able to be intentional about in the evenings I can develop this side hustle or business, or I can spend time with friends and family, or I can have a big meal with people over, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of things, and I want you guys to be processing what that looks like for you too. So I'm starting school back on Monday with the students, and then I'm going to be going into a busy season, filming some weddings over the fall, and so that's going to keep me busy. So I wanted to get on here. I wanted to make sure I got a video out to you guys, to all of you, about just various stuff that's going on. So I don't know who's going to State Fair, but I'm hoping to get to the State Fair in the next couple weeks, because that's become kind of a tradition in my life since I've been in Minnesota. I was introduced to the State Fair the first summer I was here, and I thought, I grew up in Georgia. I'm like, oh, it's the county fair. I've been to Northwest Georgia County, Whitfield County Fair, or whatever, and so I'm thinking of county fair, and then these people take me to the State Fair, and I'm like, what? is going on? What am I experiencing right now? Overwhelmed, sensory overload, sugar rush, because at that point I wasn't eating a whole lot of sugar, so like I enjoyed all of the delicacies that they had, and totally was on cloud nine the whole time. It was pretty great, but it's become a tradition of mine. I don't know when I'm going yet, but it's got to happen. It has to happen. Yeah, but then starting school, one thing I would like to ask of you guys, just to kind of throw it in the comments, throw it in the feed for you, is who would be one of the teachers that was most influential for you when you were growing up, or currently, and then what was one of your favorite school activities or functions. So those two things, as we go into the back to school season, it's big for me. Not everybody's in that mode, because some people don't have kids, or some people don't have a job at a high school. Some people aren't in college. College is the thing. But yeah, so who were some of the people that were the most influential in your life as teachers, as faculty, and then what are one or two or three of your favorite activities that you experienced in your school days? So until next time, I'm Clint. This has been Coffee with Clint, and I hope to see you guys soon. I hope to have coffee with each and every one of you for the rest of my life, all time, every day, every moment, just coffee with people, and never ever be able to experience it all and live in the despair of knowing that you can never ever have coffee with everybody. That's what I want to experience.